This is such an important game. If somehow Real Madrid does not get through to the next round of the Champions League, we could be seeing the very end of Carlo Ancelotti as the manager of Real Madrid. Now, I'm going to highlight a few things in this video that are going to be crucial for us to make it to the next round to face Arsenal. And if we do get to the next round, to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, the second leg will be played at the Bernabeu. So we'll be in much better footing against Arsenal if we make it through against Atleti. Now, so far this season, Real Madrid has won only 62% of their matches. And of those 62 wins, 83% of those wins have been at home at the Bernabeu. In contrast, Real Madrid has won less than 50% of their games, winning only 43% of the games away from home. So again, I cannot stress enough how important it is for Real Madrid to not lose, to not have this game go to extra time. Now, obviously, Real Madrid had two big wins in the Champions League away from home, one against Atalanta and the second one against Manchester City. Given that Atalanta was eliminated by Club Brugge and then City just took another L to Nottingham Forest, us beating both those sides doesn't look so impressive at this point. So what I'll get into in this video is the 5 keys to victory and 5 adjustments that Carlo Ancelotti needs to implement for us to successfully get through to the next round. Now, the first adjustment that Carlo Ancelotti needs to implement in this game is getting more output from the fullbacks. Now, Ferland Mendy in this game was involved in the winner that Brahim Díaz scored. He also had a shot on target, and Federico Valverde also assisted a goal, and Fede had a shot on target. The game prior against Betis, Ferland Mendy assisted that goal that Brahim Díaz scored. You can tell that this is something that was an instruction from Carlo Ancelotti to ask Ferland Mendy and have Federico Valverde be more involved in attacking. Now, given the organization of this Atleti side, one of the ways you can beat them is from your fullbacks. Undoubtedly, when Davide and Carlo Ancelotti were looking at the game plan of how to defeat this side, that had to be one of the keys to victory in this game. One of the things I'll get into a little bit later in the video also connects with this very point, because although Kylian and Vinicius both didn't have their best games, it's because Atletico Madrid plays with 3 center backs in the box at all times, and they focus on controlling the box and denying those spaces. And that is just one thing that could disrupt that defensive block. Now, the second key to victory in this match is not overcommitting in the build-up phase. This is something that I've noticed that Carlo Ancelotti has implemented since Toni Kroos has left, especially over the last few games. What he's asked of his midfielders is not to overcommit by being too far high up the pitch in the build-up phase, but to be more vertical. And what this ultimately has meant for us is that if the ball is lost in the build-up phase, Real Madrid is not overcommitting by having their midfielders being so high up the pitch. Of course, things were much different with Toni Kroos because you could rely on his ball progression. Because last season, even in the Champions League, he was completing his pass accuracy was 95.6%. And when you have somebody who's so reliable, you can commit a little bit to being higher up the pitch because you have such a reliability from the back. But in this case, Carlo Ancelotti has adapted the team by having more vertical, direct passes from the back and asking his midfielders to sit a little deeper. And if those passes are not successful, then Real Madrid is still in a good defensive shape to be able to protect themselves from a counterattack. Now, the third key to victory is something that gets overlooked so often. And I'm going to get into who I think should start this game, why we can successfully win this match with this very tactic, which is relying on late runs through the half space. Now, again, one of the things that we exploited in the last game was this very thing, which is having Brahim Díaz run in behind the fullback and the center back. That space in between is where Real Madrid can have a lot of the success. We saw Valverde also do it in the match. And because the profile of Kylian Mbappe is not that of a natural number 9, he isn't finding a lot of spaces. But in the match when we faced Atleti in La Liga, we saw Jude Bellingham play almost as a 9 in possession. And then Kylian would find a little bit more pockets of space in the box. But in this match, one of the things that Real Madrid can do is have their players, especially the fullbacks, make those runs through those channels. And not just the fullbacks, but if Brahim starts and Jude Bellingham, then you can have those attacking threats making those runs through the channels. Those types of runs are so difficult to defend against because you can man mark those players. Atletico Madrid has a zonal marking system. And in zonal marking, one of the ways you can exploit it is by making those runs that are so difficult to track. And that takes me to my fourth fourth point, which relates to the third, which is faster, more vertical passes. Now, Kylian almost killed the game off for us by assisting Vinicius for that third goal. And of course, Fede played that ball very quickly to Rodrigo, and he obviously scored that goal. The way to beat this Atleti side is by playing the ball more quickly, less build-up play, more directness, and sharper passes to the attacking players. You're probably seeing a consistent theme and pattern of things that I keep highlighting, but the keys to victory in this game is very much the things that Carlo Ancelotti has been speaking about this season. And where we'll have success in this game is by being faster on the ball, more direct, more vertical passes both to Vinicius and to Rodrigo. And that takes me to my final point, which is often overlooked, which is we need to be a lot more decisive from set pieces. A lot of the success that we've had against this side in the Champions League, obviously I don't need to remind you guys whether it was Sergio Ramos's 93rd minute equalizer in the Champions League, or if it was our opening goal against them for our 11th Champions League. Last season, Real Madrid scored 8 goals from set pieces. But of course, we had Toni Kroos in the team. So overall, what this game can come down to is how clinical and good we are from set pieces. Not just for us to score a set piece, but also for us to defend them as well. If I take you guys back to last season, where we scored our opening goal in the Champions League final, Dani Carvajal. This season, we scored a few set pieces from Valverde because of his decisive shooting. But in the last game, we had a few corners, but we weren't able to generate any kind of threat from them. And if we want to win this game, then we need to improve how well we take these set pieces. Again, it's something that's so overlooked, but we just simply have to do better from these set pieces. Because let's face it, they're not going to give you a lot of opportunities. But if you do get a corner or a free kick, then make the most out of it. And the last thing I'll talk about in this video, the lineup that I think Carlo Ancelotti should go for in this game, the only change I would make is Jude Bellingham for Camavinga. Simply on the fact that Jude Bellingham can play in the pivot. He played this role for Borussia Dortmund. Camavinga is not in the best form. Jude Bellingham can provide you both with the defensive intensity. He's a two-way presence. He can play box to box. He can create. He can be involved in the build-up phase. And given the form that Brahim is in right now, I think he's earned his place in the team for the return leg. And obviously, out of possession, Real Madrid would still be in a 4-4-2, which just means that Jude Bellingham and Tchouaméni would form the double pivot. And I expect both Vinicius and Mbappe to play better in the second leg. It's unlikely that both of these players are going to perform poorly in both legs. Ultimately, a lot of the success we've had in the past has come down to individual moments of brilliance. And even if we're not playing at our best, we still have the best players in the world who can come up big for us in moments where you didn't expect it. So I'm expecting us to not only travel there, but to do what we haven't done in a long time, which is to get a win away at the Metropolitano. It's time for these star players to shine. It's been a really shaky season for us. We're not used to losing this many games. But this is either going to be a turning point for the season where we finally stamp our authority, or it's going to be a lot of the same stuff and ultimately the end of Carlo Ancelotti's tenure at Real Madrid. What do you guys think? Do you believe that this is going to be a Real Madrid victory, or are we looking at the beginning of the end for Carlo Ancelotti at Real Madrid? Thank you for watching. Hala Madrid.